From a helpless and weak boy struggling to stay alive to an absolute monster capable of defeating any devil in the world, these are all of Denji's forms in Chainsaw Man. And let's start with his human form. During his younger days, Denji was just an average kid in a world full of evil humans and devils. He was weak and scared of pretty much everything around him. He also had an abusive father who was under immense, crippling debt. One day, Denji just couldn't take it anymore and finally defended himself by giving his father a beating, which ultimately led to the man's death. And he got stuck with paying back everything his father owed to a Yakuza gangster. In order to earn money, he was then forced to start hunting devils and slowly grew more capable over the years. However, this wasn't enough, as Denji also had to sell some of his organs on the black market to keep up with the debt. At one point, Denji found and saved a small chainsaw devil called Pochita. He then adopted this devil as his pet dog, and they started fighting other devils together. However, even with some experience fighting devils, Denji still wasn't very strong, and he quickly met his end once he engaged the zombie devil in battle. With his corpse rotting away in a dumpster, Denji got another shot at life when something unexpected happened. Before we explain some of Denji's strongest forms in the entire series, I want to quickly tell you guys about Blue Protocol Star Resonance, the sponsor of today's video. Star Resonance is an MMORPG with a huge anime open world. In it, you can create your own hero and do literally anything you want. Up for some action? Go on a team raid and fight a cool boss. Want something more chill instead? Head to town and go fishing, crafting, or simply explore the stunning open world. Star Resonance is currently running its Season 1 Part 2 promotion campaign. As of right now, there's an event going on called Dragon Shackle, where you can team up with up to 20 other players and slay the mighty dragon boss to earn some exclusive rewards. But if you don't want to do that, you can also earn amazing rewards by simply logging in for 15 days starting on November 13th. They also added some cool new outfits you can unlock, like Core Drive, Envoy of Night, Xenomimic, and even the Hyper Impulse mount. You have to admit, this one looks pretty cool. So what are you waiting for? Click my link in the description to download Star Resonance now. And don't forget to use the limited time exclusive redemption code to get even more free stuff. Chainsaw Devil Denji. On the brink of death, while hugging his pet devil, Pochita offered Denji a contract. In exchange for his blood, all of Denji's dreams to live a normal life were about to come true. Pochita then replaced Denji's heart with its own and transformed him into a half-devil, half-human hybrid. Waking up in a dumpster, Denji noticed that he now had a weird cord sticking out of his chest. He decided to pull it, which transformed him into Chainsaw Man, a more buffed version of himself with chainsaws growing out of his arms and head. His face also transformed into the body of a red chainsaw, but with massive, sharp teeth. In this form, Denji had superhuman strength and speed, along with the ability to regenerate his body from any injuries after consuming blood. After transforming for the first time, Denji made easy work of the zombie devil and was found by Makima soon after. Seeing his potential, Makima decided to invite Denji to join public safety as a devil hunter. As Denji went on a couple of missions for the public safety, we learned a bit more about his new abilities. For starters, after fusing with Pochita, Denji's superhuman abilities remained active even when he wasn't transformed. For example, even in his human form, he was durable enough to survive being hit by power with a hammer and getting squeezed by the Bat Devil. Another interesting thing we discovered during this time is that Denji needs blood to use his abilities. So if he doesn't have enough of it in his body, he won't be able to fully transform. Due to being a hybrid, Denji also became practically immortal. He can survive getting shot, being thrown from buildings, and taking all kinds of injuries that would kill most devils. Even if he dies, as long as someone pulls the cord on his chest, Denji can come back to life in perfect condition. Soon after joining the public safety, on one of his missions, Denji was trapped in a hotel by the Eternity Devil. With seemingly no way out, Denji fought with the devil for 3 full days, showing off his ridiculous stamina as he continued to eat away at the creature's massive body in order to constantly regenerate. However, as strong as Denji's devil form was at this point, he still lacked experience and wasn't thinking too much while fighting. This was why stronger enemies like the Sword Devil and Leech Devil were able to easily defeat him. It was pretty evident evident that Denji needed someone to teach him how to fight, which leads us to his next form. Post Kishibe's training Denji. Soon enough, Makima pulled in a favor and had one of the strongest hunters, Kishibe, train both Denji and Power. Under Kishibe's guidance, Denji and Power went through absolute hell after getting killed almost 20 times for days on end. With barely any time to think or recover, Denji needed to think of a smarter way to fight and come up with a plan to harm Kishibe. It took them both a long time, but they finally came up with a solid plan to take Kishibe off guard and defeat him. This obviously didn't work since Kishibe was levels above them, but he was impressed nonetheless. However, before they could continue with more training, things suddenly took a turn for the worst when Swordman made his comeback. Much stronger this time, Denji used his brain to face off against this enemy and actually managed to win. Swordman was then captured and taken to one of the public safety's facilities. Denji's fighting style wasn't the only thing that changed after his training. He also wound up growing chainsaws out of his legs. Overall, he was much stronger and more composed compared to before, and was also able to regenerate from his injuries a lot faster too. During his fight with 𝐿𝐵𝐻𝐻, Denji also developed an ability to disconnect the chains from his chainsaws and use them in combat. He could wrap these chains around his opponent's body and use them to pull his opponents closer to him. Another way Denji used his chains was by cutting objects with them or wrapping them around objects to throw them at his enemies. The chains could also be used as grappling hooks, allowing Denji to wrap them around stuff in order to pull himself closer. His powered up state was really put to the test when he came up against the assassins during the International Assassins arc. Although Kishibe kept him out of harm's way for most of the arc, Denji eventually had to engage Santa Claus and her puppets in battle. To make matters worse for Denji, Santa Claus got a huge power up from the Darkness Devil, which made her insanely powerful. Still, using his brains, Denji decided to light his own body on fire to become a beacon of light and weaken the effects of the darkness. Eventually, through sheer will and skill, Denji managed to defeat Santa Claus and save everyone from transforming into puppets. Afterward, it took everyone some time to recover. Power was left basically handicapped and terrified of the Darkness Devil ever since. Choosing to stay with her and take care of her instead of going on a trip with Makima, Denji started growing closer to both Aki and Power. For some time after this, life seemed perfect for Denji, and the Special Division 4 began to create a family bond with each other. However, everything changed once Makima revealed her true intentions. You see, one day, Denji heard a pounding on the door of his apartment and a phone call at the same time. Makima then informed Denji how the Gun Devil had traced his location. Believing it to be a lie, Denji opened the door only to find Aki's corpse had transformed into the Gun Fiend. This forced Denji to battle his friend to the death. After a very gruesome fight and constant cries from Denji to make Aki snap out of it, Chainsaw Man had no choice but to save the civilians around him. So, Denji thrust both of his chainsaw arms into Aki's body and put him out of his misery. Standing over Aki's body, Denji realized he had just killed someone he thought of as a brother. This event left him emotionally scarred for some time after. The biggest problem for Denji at this point was that he was so easy to control and manipulate. Although he did become much stronger than when we were first introduced to him, he was still just a naive kid, and this was about to cost him. Black Chainsaw Man. It wasn't long before Denji slipped into his old ways. Aki's death had traumatized him to the point where he wanted to completely stop thinking for himself. So he gave himself away completely to Makima, becoming one of her dogs and choosing to follow her orders blindly. Believing himself to be safe, he let his guard down and even stopped listening to any of Pochita's warnings. It wasn't long before a knock on Makima's door had him questioning himself yet again. Despite feeling something wasn't right, he decided to listen to Makima and open the door. On the other side, he saw Power holding a birthday cake for his 17th birthday, but not for long. With one swift motion and a bang, Denji watched Power die instantly in front of his eyes. Makima then revealed her real plan. All along, she had been looking for a way to break Denji's contract with Pochita. In order to do this, she needed to break down Denji emotionally and make him feel like he didn't deserve a normal life. This was why she introduced Denji to Aki and Power, making sure they all developed a family-like bond with each other. She then took it all away from him. With his happiness destroyed thanks to his own devil abilities, Denji's contract with Pochita was basically broken. This allowed Makima to do what she does best, take control of Denji in hopes of seeing Pochita's true form. This handicapped Denji was then brought along with her, but But Kishibe soon intervened and launched a counterattack against Makima. As soon as Makima pulled Denji's chest cord, Pochita's real form emerged with a black chainsaw head, a bulkier build, 2 extra arms, and mastery over chains. This unstoppable force of chaos was a killing machine that started tearing anything around it to shreds. Despite Makima's preparation for this fight, even she couldn't do anything against this monster and was killed by it multiple times. It's also important to mention that Black Chainsaw Man has the ability to delete any devil from existence by eating it. However, that's not all, because the fear the eaten devil represented would also be completely erased from existence. For example, if Black Chainsaw Man were to eat the knife devil, all knives would instantly disappear from the world like they had never existed in the first place. Anyway, since Makima was losing the battle at this point, she decided to pull a little trick. You see, the devils in Chainsaw Man get stronger the more people fear them. This was why, prior to this fight, Makima made Denji look like a hero and intentionally made it so his feats would be televised all across Japan. This made Black Chainsaw Man significantly weaker as people weren't fearing him anymore. Eventually, this allowed Makima to overpower him and almost kill him. But just as Makima was about to strike the killing blow against Chainsaw Man, it was Power who saved him with her blood abilities. Because, as it turned out, a part of Power was still alive inside Denji's body. With Pochita and Power's help, Chainsaw Man was able to make his way to a dumpster again, where he revived into Denji once more. Crying alone in a dumpster after facing the reality of what he had done, Denji found Kishibe outside waiting for him. At Kishibe's hideout, Denji finally came up with a plan to defeat Makima. Now, the problem was that Makima was practically unkillable by any attack due to a contract she had with the Prime Minister of Japan. So Denji had to think a bit outside of the box. He first managed to ambush Makima by using Pochita's heart as a decoy. He then managed to use the last of Power's remaining blood within his body to form a blood chainsaw that ripped straight through Makima. This basically formed a blood barrier that slowed down Makima's regeneration, but then came the most ridiculous part of Denji's plan. He sliced Makima into pieces and turned her into a bunch of small dishes that he ate over time. Yeah, he practically ate her, which was kind of a loophole since he didn't technically attack her. Although this plan worked, the control devil was soon reincarnated into another girl named Nayuta. In order for Nayuta not to become the next Makima, Kishibe found the girl and brought her to Denji. He then asked Denji to take care of her and show her love so that she wouldn't end up taking the wrong path. This marked the end of Denji's career as a public safety devil hunter. He retired with Nayuta, Meowie, and Makima's dogs, and became an average high school student who sometimes fought devils as a hobby. Before we cover Denji's strongest form in the entire series, let's first quickly cover the high schooler Denji. Even though Denji slipped into a quiet life of hiding, Chainsaw Man became one of the most popular figures on the planet thanks to Makima's schemes. Denji kind of liked this, and he hoped someone would figure out it was him, but no one ever did. However, he was happy with his new life and was thankful for finding some sort of peace. He fought a couple of devils during this time, but none of these fights were really that impressive. It also didn't help that he was threatened by the public safety to never transform into Chainsaw Man again, which limited the fights he participated in even further. Eventually, his wish came true and a cult was formed around him. We'll talk about the cult a bit later on. Anyway, this was the point in the story where Denji became a lot wackier when it came to engaging enemies and also selectively chose them for his own selfish reasons. Soon enough, one of the primordial devils, the Falling Devil, started rampaging across Tokyo. Eventually, the devil targeted Denji's friend, Asa Mitaka, as it thought she would make the perfect meal. This forced Denji to rush to save her, but he was soon confronted by his past traumas due to the Falling Devil's abilities. In order to counter this, Denji actually cut his own brain out, knowing that he'd be able to regenerate it later. This essentially made him lobotomized, but at least he could continue to fight without thinking about anything. As wacky as it sounds, it was a pretty clever move on Denji's part. After getting sent to hell and back again, Asa created a cool chainsaw bike for Denji, and the two were able to get rid of the Falling Devil with Nayuta's help. After this whole ordeal, the leaders of the Chainsaw Man cult appeared and invited Denji to their church. It turned out most of them were weapon devils, and their plan was to make sure Denji went back to his old ways, aka being Chainsaw Man again. After Denji refused, they planned to massacre people in the hopes that he'd transform and save them. Their plan was soon foiled by the public safety devil hunters. However, things took a turn for the worst once the cult's followers began transforming into chainsaw fiends. This all happened because the cult followers were tricked into signing contracts with the Fire Devil, whose ability turned people into the thing they wanted to become the most. And for the Chainsaw Man cultists, that was obviously Chainsaw Man. With news spreading about people transforming into chainsaw fiends, the world started fearing Denji once again, and this was exactly what the cultists wanted. You see, this was all a master plan put into action by the Death Devil in order to make Denji stronger. But that wasn't important right now because Denji soon found out that his entire home had burned in a fire and Nayuta was nowhere to be found. That was until one of the Chainsaw Man cult members showed Denji her severed head. And as you can imagine, this completely broke Denji, which meant Chainsaw Man's true form emerged once again. The hero of hell. Filled with rage, Pochita took control of Denji's body yet again, which transformed him into the black version of Chainsaw Man. As I already mentioned, in this form, Denji was one of the strongest devils in existence, but what made this form even stronger than the one he used against Makima was the fact that Chainsaw Man was now feared across the world, which made him far more powerful than before. It was also here that we finally saw Chainsaw Man using his ability to delete other devils from existence by eating them. He first showcased this when he ate the Ear Devil, making everyone in the world lose their ears. He then proceeded to do the same thing with other devils too, but ultimately threw them all up, which caused everything to return to normal. Even though at this point, Chainsaw Man was one of the strongest beings in the verse, it's important to mention that Pochita was the one doing all of the heavy lifting. Despite thinking outside the box at certain moments, Denji was still pretty pathetic at this point and couldn't make any decisions for himself. He was pretty much being used as a pawn by everyone, and any feats that could be attributed to him were mostly possible because of Pochita taking control of his body. Anyway, one major battle that happened while Denji was in this form was a battle against the war devil, Yoru. And this was pretty much the first time we saw any other devil actually overpower Black Chainsaw Man in a battle. However, it is important to mention that Pochita didn't go all out in this fight, as he didn't want to straight up kill Yoru. The last time we saw Black Chainsaw Man in the story, he seemingly ate the Death Devil. So yeah, the rest of this arc is definitely going to be interesting.